Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the League of Europe Formula 1 YouTube channel for round 11 of the Division 3 season. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Commentus. I'll be taking you through Division 3 proceedings as always, and joining me in the commentary box once again this week is Iro Packer. Packer, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm going pretty well on this Saturday afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm looking forward to this race once again. We had a pretty exciting race last time out in Hungary, obviously, that you commentated on as well. Also, before we get going as well, happy birthday to you for yesterday as well. So,
thank you.
Everyone wish happy birthday to Packer in the chat while you're at it. But yeah, we had a great race last time out in Hungary, and we had another new winner this season. We had TDB win in Silverstone the last time out. YHYY won his first race at Budapest from 13th on the grid, so he pulled off an amazing drive. He got a little bit lucky with a safety car towards the end of the race, but he had the pace to pull it off in the end, and he did a really, really good job. He was our newest race winner to add to quite a small amount of race winners we've had so far this season. It's fair to say that Division 3 so far has been dominated by two regular drivers, really. Just looking at the championship standings coming into round 11, Jorno still leads the way despite a pretty chaotic race for him in Hungary. He still managed to outscore J. Cole, who was looking set for a possible podium. He leads the championship now by 7 points over J. Cole. It's 131 to 124. There is 35 points back to Old School in third, who retired after a bit of a poor start last time out in Hungary. He retired very early on. And then it's 16 points back to Caesar, currently still in fourth. But he is now only 1 point ahead of TDB after another podium for him last time out. YHYY is up to sixth after his first win, ahead of his Ferrari teammate Eduk. B. Morgan, XLBRE and Miami now round off the top 10. So Miami has made his way into the top 10 with a good result for him, a second place last time out in Hungary as well. So looking at the championship standings, while the top two really are running away with it at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, most definitely. Jorno with the most podiums in the field. 2 third places, 2 wins, and I believe a third place, or a second place in Spain. Yeah, he's just been really, really consistent, always seems to be in the top 5.
Yeah, he really does, and we saw last time out in the qualifying actually in Hungary. We've seen this a few times this season. He really struggled to get a lap on the board, but when he did, the only lap he managed to get on the board in the end, he managed to get inside that top 10 in qualifying and managed to make up for it in the race as well. So he can score points seemingly no matter what happens to him in races, and that's why he's been able to hold on to the championship lead. J. Cole, though, still putting up a really, really good fight in second, and now there's a good battle really happening for third, isn't there? Old School with a retirement means that the likes of Caesar, TDB, YHYY and Eduk, and probably B. Morgan actually, all within a shout of that third place at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, B. Morgan had a really good qualifying last time out in Hungary, but unfortunately was not able to capitalize on any mistakes or safety cars, really. I believe he had a spin towards the later stages of that Grand Prix. But YHYY and TDB we're really going to have to look out for them because they have really, really good momentum going into the second round of the second half of this Division 3 season.
Yeah, they really do. TDB especially, 2 podiums in a row now, a win and a third place, means that he's the highest point scorer in the last 2 rounds of the championship. He's done a brilliant job to work his way from the bottom end of the top 10 up to 5th in the standings. And I believe, if I look correctly, yeah, Caesar is not here again. So he only needs to score the 1 point, and that puts him level on points with Caesar in the championship for 4th. So he's on a bit of a run at the moment, the man in the Williams. He's obviously here today as well. The other Williams man, though, Peter, he had a good qualifying last time out as well, didn't he? He ended up taking pole position right at the dying depths of the session, actually, with a really good time. But in the end, just a bit of a bizarre strategy from him really cost him a shot at the victory, didn't it?
Yeah, that 2-stop was not the fastest strategy out there on the track, especially even with the safety cars. He couldn't really capitalize and make up places on his fresher tires.
Yeah, he really struggled in the end, and then also he had quite a lot of penalties in that race as well around Hungary. Hungary it's pretty easy to pick up penalties there, and Peter unfortunately found himself falling foul to that. He picked up quite a lot in the end, and it dropped him quite a ways down the field from where he finished on track. He did win on track, but unfortunately those penalties did cost him in the end. Looking like at the moment, according to the chat, it looks like we might have a full wet race here at Belgium. So that is something that we haven't really seen so far in Division 3. We haven't really seen wet conditions fully yet. So a full wet race around Belgium of all tracks is going to be incredibly difficult. That's right, though, with Peter, as he's going to be the first person to set a lap time in qualifying, obviously with a bit of a compromised setup now that we know that the session is going to be wet in the race down into the La Source in downhill on the apex of the corner. Very easy to run wide. Peter does run a little wide, but it doesn't cost you too much time. Now coming down towards Eau Rouge and then up through Radion, probably one of the most iconic corners on the calendar, but it's kind of really a nothing corner now. It's just so easy for these modern Formula 1 cars. And now down the Kemmel Straight, the best overtaking opportunity on the track into the DRS zone, coming up towards the Les Combes chicane. Inside or outside here really works for any overtaking opportunity. Round the outside of the first part of the chicane, and now down into Malmedy, the last part of this chicane at the top of the hill, down into Beau Rivage, this downhill right-hander. Incredibly easy to lock up a front wheel here. Peter gets away with it. Runs a little bit wide of the apex though. Coming out of the corner, don't touch that curb on the left-hand side, and now into the corner with no name. Fairly easy. It looks like a fairly easy 90 right-hander, but it slopes away on the exit, so it's very easy to run wide. Into Pouon now, probably the most difficult corner on the track to get right. He seems to have got it really nicely there. Now into the Lefania chicane. Don't take too much curb on the inside. It's very easy to spin the car out if you do so. Gets it quite nicely there, does Peter. A little bit late in the direction change midway through the chicane. And now into Stavolo, another 90 right corner. Don't run too wide, it can invalidate your lap time. Now through Curve Pool Frere, easy flat in qualifying, but in the wet conditions, that is going to be a very tricky corner to get right. And now down this back straight that isn't really straight, coming up into Blanchemont, this flat out left-hander. You have seen amazing overtakes in rear left one in the past area, notably Verstappen around the outside of NASA, coming up towards the bus stop chicane. Now the final two corners on the track, don't touch too much curb on the inside of either, because they are quite high and there are sausage curbs on the inside that can cause a lot of wheel spin on the exit. A little bit of a wobble there from Peter coming out the corner, but he crosses the line to do a 42.1, and in these cool conditions with the compromise setup, not a bad banker for the Williams man.
Yeah, Stubby is going to come across the line second, but he is invalidated, so he will pull into the pits. And then it's the two Red Bulls, Savage, who has invalidated, and Miami coming to the line. He's coming to the bus stop right now. He has derated already, which is kind of odd to see. But coming through the last corner, third gear, and opening up DRS across the very, very close start-finish line. He's going to go a 300th behind Peter in the Williams. Really good lap. A really good banker, actually. Actually, now Jekyll is going to go on provisional pole with a 41.7, a very high 41.7. I wonder if he's running that wet setup.
I wonder if he is. Yeah, they have to wait and see. He ran a bit of a different setup, it seemed, in Hungary that did him well in qualifying, but in the race he really struggled to keep up with the guys in front. He seemed to run a bit of a higher straight line speed setup. We have seen that a lot from Jaco in the past as well in other divisions, so let's see if he's running the same thing here today. It's going to put him at the front for qualifying. We've got one of the Hasses come up to line. That's B. Morgan on a 42.2. He goes into third place. Now YHYY slots in behind him in fourth, just a tenth further back. We've got the other Williams of TDB coming up to the line. He does a 42.6, so he goes a little bit further behind. He's currently running in fifth. Miami, that first lap, seemingly made a mistake on that lap, a 43.2, quite a ways off the pace at the moment. I believe Yorno coming round the bus stop chicane has actually dived into the pit lane, so he's invalidated his first run as well. QVR Chill coming up to line in the Racing Point. Where does he put himself relative to his teammate?
Ooh.
He goes into second place, a 32.1, so it's currently a Racing Point 1-2. We still have got 12 drivers yet to set a time, and we've got the two Renaults now coming up to finish their lap times. Let's wait and see which one of these is going to be first. It's going to be Old School across the line first, Brie directly behind him. Old School crosses the line, only 7th with a 42.9, Brie goes 5th with a 42.3, and once again we see it in qualifying where Brie is now starting to get the measure of his teammate.
Yeah, Brie has been always pretty close, or the two Renaults really in general have been pretty close in qualifying, but Old School getting the better of his teammate over the course of the season in the driver's standings. Old School up in third place, and Brie down in 9th place currently.
Yeah, Brie really struggled in the opening phases of this season, but it's starting to come together for him now. He seems to be building his confidence nicely. So up in 5th place, splitting B. Morgan and YHYY at the moment. Got one of the Ferraris to the line. That's Edok. Only a 43.7 for Edok, so he obviously made some sort of mistake on his lap. That's not the pace we're used to seeing from him. We've got, I believe, JSD coming up to the line. He invalidated his first run, and he's invalidated his second run as well, so he's not going to be able to get a lap time in. We have got a new driver. We've got two new drivers actually today as well. Mumford plays. He is in the McLaren in place of Thor, I believe now, and Luke 05HD in the Alpha Tauri. He's also new to this field as well. Look out for them. Mumford's out on the track on the moment on an out lap. I believe Peter's actually started his third lap on the same set of tyres. He did cross the line for a second time. Let's see where he is. He's actually going for another run, and he's a tenth and a half up in the first sector. So on his third lap on this set of tyres, Peter finding some time, coming down through Pouon once again. Nice and neat through there. Just about keeps it on the road midway through. That was almost on the limit for Peter. Looked very committed through there into the Lefania chicane. Obviously, he will be struggling a bit for grip now that these tyres obviously aren't at their best, but he's seemingly very committed. Nearly oversteers coming out the exit of the chicane and into Stavolo, but he keeps it on the road nicely. He's now nearly 4 tenths up, so he's finding a lot of time on this third lap on these set of tyres. Now coming down this straight, there's not really any time to gain here until you get to the braking zone for bus stop. It is completely flat all the way from the Sector 3 line, all the way up to the bus stop chicane. He goes through Blanchimont nicely, and now into bus stop. How late can he break in that Williams? He hits the brakes nice, coming into the chicane. He's down into second gear. He looked very committed once again round the final corner. This looks a very good lap from Peter on his third lap on these set of tyres. Where does he go? He crosses the line. He goes into P2. He splits the racing points of 41.8. He lost a little bit of time compared to his personal best in that last sector, but that's only to be expected with the tyre wear he has. But on his third lap on that set of soft tyres, that is pretty ominous from Peter for the rest of this session.
Yeah, I wonder. As I said with J. Cole, I wonder if he's running that wet setup, because 41.7 is actually a really good lap for Division 3, I'd say. But yeah, Peter doing his third lap on those tires is not going to affect him in the race, because they are going to be starting on either the intermediates or those full wet tires. So he can do really as many laps as he wants to.
Yeah, just getting his iron, it seems, as well, and that means obviously ran with a little bit more fuel in the car, so expect an even better time from Peter. I was going to say, if the race was dry, then maybe looked for a mid to low 141 to be pole position, and we're already nearing that rate, that kind of phase anyway, so even with the wet conditions that are coming up, so the pace does look good here. Harry Nawag in the Alfa Romeo coming round the final corner. He struggled in the last couple of rounds to really find the pace that he had in the paces like Baku. He comes up to the line, and it's only 11th for him. He goes behind Eduk. He's the slowest of the people to set a lap time so far. His Alfa Romeo teammate Stumpy now coming up to the line as well. He's coming off the back of some good runs recently as well. He crosses the line, but he's only 10th as well, so he goes just ahead of Eduk, but he goes a 10th behind Miami. Both Alfa Romeos struggling a little bit for pace, but that does suggest to me that maybe they're going for a properly full wet setup if they haven't quite got the pace in the dry conditions. I believe we have got that's Miami, I think, on an outlap, as well as Savage. So we'll ride with the McLarens. Yorno, once again for the third time in this session, hasn't validated his lap time, so he's not going to be improving on currently P15 at the moment. He needs to try and find some time here. And once again, just like we saw in Hungary, Yorno can't seem to string a lap together in the early stages. Mumford plays now coming through Blanchimont and then up towards the bus stop chicane. Let's see where he can go on his first competitive lap in League of Europe. He comes into the final bus stop chicane, a little bit wide of the apex, but that's not too much of a worry. Gets it nicely for the second part, and now coming up to the line. Mumford plays across the line, goes P7 with a 42.4. That's a pretty competitive time for your first time in League of Europe.
Yeah, obviously we're not going to know exactly where his pace is going to be, but he does go where is it? P7 in the McLaren on a 42.4, low 42.4, which should pretty much solidify himself as a good midfield runner.
It really should, yeah. We'll have to wait and see whether he can hold that position as the session goes on, whether he can improve along with the people around him. We've got more people on laps as it stands. Savage is on a lap in the Red Bull. Let's see what he can do as well. Pease also directly behind him is on a lap, and I believe Pease has just set the fastest first sector of anyone. Pease so far in qualifying in pretty much every race he's attended has been inside the top 3 in qualifying. He's an incredible qualifier. It hasn't quite converted into race victories for him as of yet. We'll have to wait and see if he can pull that one off today. He's got 2 third places to his name, I believe, but that is it for the season for Pease. He's looking for that elusive first race victory. Savage then through the second sector is quite a ways down on what Mumford Plays was doing at that point in the lap. He's about 0.6 of a second down on the McLaren man, so it looks like he's going to struggle to get into the 42s with this lap. It seems both Red Bulls seemingly struggling for pace here. Miami is still currently down in 10th place. Here comes Savage then up to the bus stop chicane. Pease is actually closing in on him on this lap, actually. You can see him in the background, and again another lock up there from Savage coming into the bus stop chicane. Looked like a double front lock up for the Red Bull man as he comes out of the final corner and across the line, and it's a 43.2, goes into P10 just ahead of his Red Bull teammate. Pease crosses the line and does a 41.8 and goes into 3rd place. So once again, Pease in that top 3 position.
Yeah, sorry for the background noise, I can't really control that, but yeah, Total Pease, as you said earlier, going into the top 3 in qualifying, that's been pretty comfortable for him, I'd say, throughout the season. I don't think he was in the top 10 though for Hungary last time out, but yeah, the third person and the most recent person to go into the 41s.
Yeah, now we've just got B. Morgan across the line. He goes 4th on the 42 flat, just misses out on that 41's got one of the racing points coming up to the line. That's J. Cole, but he seems he couldn't improve on his first run. He actually must have made a mistake because he's going for a second run in these tyres. TDB now crosses the line and does a Evan goes 0.03 of a second faster than J. Cole and takes provisional pole position. Here comes Chill to the line. He's going to be starting another lap. It looks like he's invalidated a run, and here comes JSD into the pit lane once again. So JSD can't complete his lap either. He can't improve on currently P18. But TDB continuing with that momentum now onto the front row.
Yeah, as Harry Noirg is coming into the bus stop chicane right now, he is 3.5 tenths up. He's derating, though, as most people are. I'm not sure really how. As he opens up the DRS, gets pretty decent traction out of the last corner. He's going to go P13. He's going to improve by 0.6, but he's only going to go on to a 43.2.
Yeah, shame for Harry Nowak. They're not quite able to break into the 42s as of yet. Puts him ahead of his Alfa Romeo teammate, but like we said, full wet race, anything can happen, and it looks like he might be running a bit of a wetter setup. I believe Breeze just crossed the line. Was that Old School? No, that's Old School, sorry, who's
Old
just
school.
crossed the line. Gone into 7th on a 42-1. Breeze dived into the pit lane, so he's not improving on his second run in qualifying. He stays in 8th place for the time being. But again, it is really close in this field. First down to 7th, separated by about 4.5 tenths of a second.
It is actually very, very close. You also have to look down towards the midfield as well, as more people are starting to do laps with 5 minutes left in this short qualifying session here in Belgium. I think if you leave the pits now, you'll only be able to do one more lap, so that would be your last lap to put yourself on provisional pole position, as TDB is on that 41.7. He is coming into the pits right now. He should be able to get one more lap.
Yeah, see if he can get one more lap in. We've got one of the Alpha Tauris on a lap, I believe that is Caesar, as J. Cole now goes back onto provisional pole position on his second lap on these set of tyres. 41.7, again, goes up to the top of the timing sheets, but J. Cole, his first lap in the session was 41.7, and he's only able to improve by 0.08 of a second. It's a good lap time, and it puts him on provisional pole, but that suggests to me that J. Cole's pretty much already at his peak.
Yeah, especially considering he might be running a wet setup. That 41.7 could probably, or most definitely, is not his personal best, but that wet setup is definitely hindering his qualifying time.
Definitely, let's wait and see. Peter, meanwhile, he's on his next lap in qualifying in the Williams. We know what pace he's got in that car. He took pole position last time out. Can he do it for a second week running? Let's wait and see. He comes now into the Fania chicane. We'll wait and see what his sector time is at the end of the second sector. He's got one of the McLarens in front of him on the road. I believe that is Mumford Plays in front of him. Actually, it might be Yorno on a lap. Here comes Peter then coming out of the corner. He's actually he's nearly a tenth of a second down on his personal best. He sets a purple middle sector, but it looks like he might have made a mistake in the early part of the lap. So this isn't the best time we've seen so far from Peter. Can he improve in the bus stop chicane and maybe get onto the front row? Currently a Williams 2-3, so they're doing well in terms of the manufacturer's standings here. Coming now into the bus stop chicane again, very late on the brakes, gets the car stopped nicely, dives straight into the pit lane. So he doesn't want to continue with that lap time. He doesn't think he can improve, so he's come in, he's going to put a fresh set of tyres on. Meanwhile, in that time, Miami jumped up to 5th, and then that was immediately beaten by Yorno, who goes into 5th place. And again, Yorno leaving it late in the session, but when he does, he's got decent pace.
Yeah, Yorno putting himself in the top 5, just beating out Miami, who just improved as well into 6th place now. But yeah, Yorno, your championship leader, seeming to be can put himself in the midfield pretty easily in qualifying.
Yeah, definitely seems like that, but his race pace is what stands him out at the moment in terms of this championship. His qualifying pace isn't quite on the same level as J. Cole, but his race pace has been stellar throughout the season, and his racecraft as well. So we'll have to wait and see if he can continue that one into the wet conditions in the next race. We've got Mumford Plays across the line, I believe, to start his next run and probably his final run in qualifying. So we'll ride with him and see what he can do. I believe Stumpy and Caesar are also on laps as well in the Alpha Tauri. Let's wait and see what he can do. This is probably his first race back in about 3 races, is Caesar. Still 4th in the standings. He's not far behind Old School, but he needs to try and regain that momentum that he had at the start of the season, where he had 2 second places, and Mumford Plays has invalidated at the top of Radion, so he's not going to be able to improve on his time. Let's go back down to Caesar then and see what he's doing in the AlphaTauri. He's also invalidated, so he's saving up some ERS to go for his final run. But we saw this from Caesar early in the season as well, notably in Australia. He qualified in 19th place in Australia, has really struggled in qualifying pretty much all season long, but his race pace is very similar to Yorno's in that it's very, very good, and we know he can pull the places back in the race. So maybe Caesar doomed to a bit of a lowly grid position here.
Yeah, Caesar. I don't think you saw him earlier in the session when we just kicked off this 18-minute qualifying session. But yeah, he's down in 17th place, not being able to put a lap together as well as JSD and his new Alfa Romeo teammate, or Alpha Tauri teammate, Luke 05. But I do believe we have someone coming to the line. That is actually YYY, about to start his final lap in the qualifying session. So if he doesn't invalidate here, or he can't invalidate here if he wants to improve and move anywhere higher than 11th place.
Yeah, I have to wait and see if he can improve on that. Last week's race winner, currently outside of the top 10. You want to be at the front of the field with this one, with the wet conditions coming up. The tyre strategy isn't really going to play a part today. YHY starts his lap there. Mumford Place is going to be crossing the line soon, but he's obviously invalidated his time, so he's going to have to go again on this same set, and he's actually dived into the pit lane, so he won't be improving on 12th place for the time being. We've got more people on laps as well. Savage, I believe, is on lap. Caesar's on a run as well, so we'll ride with Caesar, but he has got whole heaps of traffic in front of him at the moment. Everyone coming around to start their final final run. He's going to have to pass quite a few of these guys coming up towards the bus stop chicane. Look for a high 13, a low 14 to be inside the top 10. It's a 30.5, so this is looking like a good lap from Caesar as he comes through Curve Paul Freire now up towards Blanchimont. There's got a lot of cars in front of him. One of the Alfa Romeos is running slow, and then it's a Ferrari and a Racing Point in front of him as well. He's closing in on the Racing Point car in front. I believe that is J. Cole that is coming up to the back of the Alfa Romeo. Moves out of the way nicely, coming down towards the bus stop chicane. So here comes Caesar round the final two corners. He'll be the first person to set his final run in qualifying out of the final corner. Where can Caesar go? He's going to jump from 17th all the way up to P2. Ooh. What a lap from Caesar. Just misses out on pole position by 300ths of a second, but onto the front row for the AlphaTauri man, looking to regain the momentum he had. Great stuff from Caesar, and he's up into second place.
Yeah, Caesar obviously had no valid banker lap to go off of, so that's a very, very impressive lap from the man in AlphaTauri. He's doing 2 laps on the soft tires, but in the end that won't matter because it's going to be a full wet race. It's actually B. Morgan is purple. He's up by a 10.5 coming through the first corner of the third sector. Now up the hill, slight up the hill towards Blanchimont, the flat out left-hander, taking just a little bit of entry curve there, and then coming through to the bus stop chicane, derating now as he goes down into second gear. 50 miles an hour for the first apex, 50 miles an hour again for the second apex. Now accelerating out of second gear, third, fourth, and fifth gear across the line. He's going to go P2. He's going to take it from Caesar. He's only gone 2,000s faster. As I believe one of the racing Renaults,
That's Brie.
Has improved.
Yeah, Brie improves to a 41.8. Yeah, total P's next to cross the line. Crosses the line, and he goes on to provisional pole. Wow, what a lap. A 41.5 from Pease, nearly 2/10 clear of everyone else behind. Can anyone respond to that one? It was looking so close before that. Pease has blown them out of the water. We've got one of the Red Bulls into the pit lane. That's Miami into the pits. He's not going to be improving. One of the Alfa Romeos will be next to the line. That is Harry Nawag. He's currently down in 17th. He stays in 17th, so he can't improve. Now it's the Williams' turn. Which one of the Williams is coming up first? It's going to be Peter. Peter crosses the line. He goes on to pole position with a 41.4. There's the speed he was threatening at the start of the session. He gets to the front of the field. TDB into the pit lane, having invalidated his run. J. Cole gets back into second place with a purple final sector, but can't quite get back onto pole position, but he's on the front row of the grid, and I believe that is pretty much it for qualifying. No one else is on a lap, as it seems. You all know it says he's on an out lap at the moment, but he's not made it to the line in time. He won't be able to improve on 9th place, but Peter threatened it at the start of the session. He managed to pull it together and get that fastest lap, but look at the gaps in the top 10. First all the way down to, well, 10th place Miami, only half a second covering the top 10 at the longest track on the calendar.
Yeah, it's only 1.8 seconds down to 17th, down at who is Harry Nawag in the Alfa Romeo. Only 2 drivers not setting lap times. But yeah, Peter taking 2 pole positions in a row.
Brilliant stuff from Peter. And let's see this time around whether he can convert that into a race victory. He's got very, very good pace, and he's continued that one here into Belgium. Then Peter takes his second pole position in a row. Jacob once again on the front row, out qualifying his championship rival, you all know, by quite a ways again. P's in that top 3 once again. How many times is he going to qualify in the top 3 so far this season? B. Morgan in 4th, good qualifying from him. 2,000ths of a second ahead of Caesar in 5th. Old School in 6th, ahead of TDB 7th. XL Brie in 8th. You all know, championship leader in 9th. Less than half a second off pole position though. Miami rounds off the top 10, then it's Chill in 11th ahead of YHYY, last week's race winner, only in 12th place on the grid. Munford Plays is 13th ahead of Edux, Stumpy, Savage, Harry Nawag, JSD and Luke round off the people in qualifying. JSD and Luke not able to set valid times in the qualifying session, so look for them to try and move forward in the race. But notable people outside the top 10, again, both Ferraris seemingly struggling in qualifying.
Yeah, but I'm also gonna, why try why though? Maybe hoping to go down one more place on the grid and maybe take a surprise race win, here in the wet at Belgium, as he did from 13th last week out, in Hungary. But, yeah, should be a pretty interestingly, race. It looks like we do have full wet conditions, here in Belgium.
That does definitely look like the full wet weather tyres. This is definitely not into conditions. Unless it's going to change quickly to intermediates, then someone can maybe take a gamble, but I don't imagine we'll see that in these conditions. Look out for Eau Rouge and Radion on this opening lap. That is going to be incredibly difficult in these conditions, especially if you have not upped the ride height in your setup. If your ride height in your setup is too low going up Eau Rouge and Radion with the wet weather conditions, your car will simply just bottom out at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of the crest just before Radion, and you will spin the car out. So that is one thing to look look out for. It could be chaos, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see when the race gets underway. But it's going to be Peter on pole position for the second race in a row. But now, with no real tyre strategy involved in this one, it's going to be a pretty easy one-stop, unless you can take the full wets to the end of the race, which I doubt you'll be able to. But with just this simple wet race well, I say simple wet race conditions, it's a full wet race around Belgium. It's never simple, but there's no real tyre strategy involved in this one. So can you see Peter maybe picking up the race win this week round?
I don't know. As you said, the conditions are always tricky here. Belgium, in any condition, is difficult. The longest track on the calendar, as you mentioned earlier. But yeah, there are many difficult corners here in the dry end as well that elevates their danger in the full wet conditions. So yeah, as long as Peter can keep first place off the start going down the Kemmel Straight into Lake Com, I think he should be able to pull away from J. Cole just because of the dirty air and the spray and take this race win.
That is one thing to look out for as well. Like you say, the spray in the full wet conditions is going to be very, very big for the drivers further down inside the top 10 and towards the back of the field. So look out for them to try and get as many places as they can to make sure that their visibility isn't impaired throughout this race. It's going to be that run down the Kemmel Straight and down towards Lake Com that really decides how this race is going to play out, who's going to get the best start in the wet conditions as well. Notable corners though in these wet conditions that could go wrong. It's going to be Eau Rouge and Radion, obviously. Pouon as well is going to be massively difficult in these wet conditions, especially with the curbs on the inside of Pouon. Those curbs in the dry conditions are killer as they are, but in the wet they're going to be untouchable in these conditions, aren't they?
Yeah, even in the dry, they're really untouchable. You could maybe do an Antonio Giovinazzi. I know he didn't touch the curbs in real life in 2019, but he did spear off into the barriers towards the lower end of what is turn 12.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing to look out for, especially with the AstroTurf on the exit of the corner as well. So easy to lose grip. And then coming through Curve Paul Frere, it's not really a corner in qualifying. It's easy, flat-out right-hander. But in the wet conditions, you're going to pick up quite a lot of understeer, especially in the dirty air as well. So making sure you keep out of the barriers that do stick out a little bit on the exit of Curve Paul Frere is going to be something to look out for as well. It's a corner you don't really think about until you go through it in the full wet conditions, and then you think, where on earth has this corner come from? But that is one thing to look out for. Before we get going though today, before we get going for this 22-lap race around Belgium, Ethan, I'm going to ask you for your top 3 in this race. Who do you think is going to come home with the podium finish, with the podium results today?
I know Old School is pretty good in the wet, so I'm not going to predict him for a win. I'm going to predict him for probably 3rd place, and then I think J. Cole, who is second in the championship. He's always pretty massively consistent in the wet conditions, so I'll go for him second, and then I don't know. I'm gonna just say Peter with a very, very boring win in Q1.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm going to put J. Cole for the race victory, actually. I agree with Old School in 3rd. I'm going to put Caesar in 2nd place in this one. Look out for him in 5th place. Looking to try and regain that momentum, as I said a number of times already. But here we go then. Everyone is lined up on the grid for the start of round 11 of the Division 3 season. Unfortunately, Savage has left the grid, so he won't be able to take the start of this one. But here come the lights ahead of the drivers. Who's going to get the best start into La Source? It's light out and away they go, very, very slowly off the line. A lot of squirreling from the front row. One of the Renaults in the background has made a terrible start. He's dropped a number of places, but Peter has got the lead into turn 1 nicely. Total P's with a good start in the Mercedes. Looking down the inside of J. Cole, we've got one of the Red Bulls wide. That will be Miami wide coming out of La Source, but everyone seems to get through quite neatly. Coming now down towards Eau Rouge and up through Radion. Who's going to get the best run through here? Peter up the hill nicely, but Pease looks like he's got a good run through the corner. Pease has got a brilliant run coming through Radion. He's already round the outside down the Camel Straight, and he's already passed. What a move from Pease. He had a brilliant run up the hill, and he's up into the race lead from 3rd on the grid. Savage has rejoined the lobby. Peter nearly held on to it, had a great start from Pease up the hill and down the Kemmel Straight has put him into the lead of the race. J. Cole's dropped to 3rd. Caesar's up to 4th. He's passed B. Morgan. There's been contact in the background, and Eduk has picked up a company. Oh, Miami's round, and he's been hit. I think he's been collected by someone as well. I didn't quite see who it was. I think it was YY.
Mumford plays.
Mumford plays as well, has been caught up in it. Yeah, Mumford's plays missing a lot of his front wings, so he's going to drop to the back of the field. A disastrous start to this race for Red Bull. I think Miami's got away with no damage. No, he has got end plate damage, unfortunately, on the right-hand side. So he drops now to stone dead, last as it is. We've got more chaos in the background coming out of the corner with no name and down towards Pouon. Side by side, that's Luke and White YY. Side by side into Pouon. White YY understeers a little bit wide, but gets away with it. He goes out of the corner nicely, keeps hold of the place. One person to note here, Harry Nawag from 17th 13th on the grid, is already 10th. He's had a brilliant start in the Alfa Romeo, and he's already into that top 10. He's 1.5 seconds off the back of Eduk, who's currently running in 9th place. But coming towards the end of lap 1, look at the lead that Pease has got. As I say that, Pease is well off the road. Was that Peter? I think that was Pease well off the road coming out of curve. Paul Frere gets away with it, but Pease is up and gone at the front of the field with a brilliant start.
Yeah, Total P is having an insane run going through Arouge and Radion. Always fearless as Eduk has a little bit of a moment through Blanchimont there. Blanchimont is always scary, even in the dry. But yeah, it's going to be even escalated with these full wet conditions. None of the gaps are really close. It's actually YYY is closing up to the back of Racing Point of Chills. Actually, Chill's going to come to the pit lane. I did say to myself that Chill could have end plate damage because he is really holding up the guys behind.
Yeah, he's into the pit lane along with Stumpy, Montfort Place and Miami. They're all into the pit lane. Savage is at the fastest lap of the race, but that's because he left the session early. So ignore that one. That lap time is not going to be beaten in this race. Unfortunately, it's Peter, oh my word, running on board with him, has a massive moment up through Radion and manages to hold on to it, but that's going to leave him vulnerable to J. Cole behind it. Looks like Peter is struggling in these conditions to keep the car on the road. Is J. Cole close enough? Not quite coming down into Lake Com, so J. Cole stays in third place for the time being.
TDB around the outside of B Morgan.
TDB
is going to send it around the outside of B Morgan. He's going to get that move done. That was absolutely a fantastic move from TDB in the Williams.
Brilliant stuff then from TDB, up from 7th on the grid, now running in 5th place, I believe. Well, actually, you might have been lower than 7th on the grid. I can't remember at this point. It's been a bit of a chaotic start, but TDB up into 5th place. B Morgan now.
Stumpy's out.
Oh, Stumpy has retired from the session here at the top of Radion, and that is a full safety race then. So first full safety car of the race comes on lap 2 for Stumpy, who was crashed at the top of the hill. Savage unfortunately has left the session once again as well, so hopefully he can join back into this lobby. But Stumpy out of the race in the Alfa Romeo. That's one down in these full wet conditions. It took a lap and a half, but we got there and someone has spun at the top of Radion. It is Stumpy. He's out of the race. That unfortunately for Pease in his race has eradicated the lead that he built that was up to about a second and a half. That is now gone with this safety car.
Yeah, Total Bees is really going to have to look behind on the safety car restart. These tires are going to cool down massively since they aren't going to be going at full speed anymore behind the safety car. But now he's going to have to look up for Peter. Peter's going to be looking for revenge on the Mercedes man currently in first place.
Definitely. Peter, though, does seem to be struggling to keep that car on the road. He seems fast, but a little bit all over the place. So we'll have to wait and see whether he can tame the beast that is that Williams and hold on to second place. J. Cole down to third then after a relatively poor start by his standards, but he's still well ahead of his championship rival. Oh, as I say that, Peter's slowed down massively coming into the bus stop. J. Cole's not predicted it and has run clean into the back of the Williams man and broken his front wing and got a time penalty for it. So J. Cole, with a great opportunity to take the lead of the championship for the second race in a row, is going to have to come in to repair damage. Oh!
Mark has hit the wall Old School has hit the wall going into the pit lane, and he was trying to get out of the wall and then got disqualified, even though he was moving. But
wow.
Yeah, that's just unfortunate for the man or the Renault man. I believe he is third in the championship. I don't think he's going to be there anymore with Caesar up in third place now, with J. Cole pitting and Old School now being disqualified. But that's 2 races in a row that he's not going to be scoring.
Yeah, Old School was looking to build off the momentum and try and close in on the top 2, but again, like you say, 2 races in a row where that's not going to happen. He has now left the session after that disqualification as well, and understandably so. He will be pretty mad with that. That is, I would say, probably really unfair for Old School to be disqualified that quickly for blocking the pit lane. But he is out of the race, unfortunately. He has a 16-point gap currently over Caesar in this race. In the championship, sorry, and a 17-point gap over TDB. They're both running 3rd and 4th. They need to finish in the top 2 to get ahead of Old School in the championship, but it's not out of the question as of yet with what we've seen so far. That's, though, 2 really big names that have had massive problems here. J. Cole running into the back of Peter behind the safety car, and Old School being disqualified from the session. That's given some, like we saw in Hungary, that's given some people that haven't won yet some real opportunities.
Yeah, Total Peas has not won a race. Peter has not won a race. Caesar, I'm not too sure if he has won a race. I do not believe he has. Yeah, he has 4 second places to his name. Still in 4th place, though, in the championship. And then TDB, who is your Britain race winner and finished 3rd, I believe, in Hungary. And then Yorno, the championship leader, down in 6th. And then Eduk. And then actually, Eduk and Harry are 2 names that we really need to mention, as well as Luke. Down in 11th, but Eduk has made up 7 places off the start. Harry with 9, and Luke with 8 places. So they've had a really, really good start.
Yeah, they really have made up a lot of places. JSD, I think, has spun behind the safety car. There was a little bit of confusion there with Savage. I think with Savage's AI car as well, there was a little bit of confusion. And that's why J. Cole was a little bit stuck there in 14th. But once again, Racing Point struggling in the race conditions. Good qualifying, but the race hasn't gone well for them. Currently running 14th and 15th. Miami, after his first podium last time out with a second place at Hungary, looking to recover now in a very different situation. He was running at the front in Hungary. He's now running at the back here, trying to work his way forwards, and then Mumford place still in this race, having though changed that front wing. He's now down in 17th place and has got to work his way back towards the back of the safety car queue before we get going again.
Edok just having a little bit of a speed difference there on Yorno, almost doing a J. Cole into the back of Yorno going into the bus stop there.
That is another thing as well with the visibility. It's hard to see what other drivers around you are doing, so I wonder whether that's what caught J. Cole out, whether he couldn't quite see where Peter was, and that's why he's driven into the back of him. I will say, though, Peter was driving pretty slowly coming into the bus stop. There was a gap between him and Pease. He might have been just adhering to the Delta, but J. Cole obviously didn't expect it and just ran clean into the back of Williams' man. So I don't know whether that is maybe... I don't know whether that's a mistake from Peter's end in driving too slowly or a mistake from J. Cole's end, but either way, that is going to cost J. Cole massively in this championship.
Yeah, most definitely. As you said, J. Cole down in 14th. He did start on the front row of the grid in these full wet conditions. Actually, Chill has picked up a 5-second penalty for collision with Miami, who is behind him. So both Racing Points now have 5-second penalties. I'm not too sure if J. Cole was able to serve his in his pit stop, because he did get it just before coming into the pit lane. But it seems that both Racing Points are going to fall down the field with penalties if they do not pit later in this Belgian Grand Prix.
I don't know if my eyes were deceiving me there, but I think Chill might have picked up 2 separate 5-second penalties for collisions with his teammate and Miami. I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me. I'm going to just check the race director actually quickly, just to see if that is the case. 5-second penalty. We've got a lot of people with warnings already. Yeah, Miami, sorry, has picked up a 5-second time penalty. So Chill picked up 2 5-second time penalties, and J. Cole's got a time penalty as well for a collision with his teammate. Chill's got 2 for a collision with his teammate and a collision with Miami. And Miami has also got a 5-second penalty with Chill, so all 3 of them ending up with penalties there.
Yeah, Jacob being put in that position with contact with Peter. The lap that the safety car came out, I believe, going into the last 2 corners in the bus stop. But yeah, J. Cole is not going to be very happy with his Racing Point teammate, who did move down from Division 2 earlier in the season.
Yeah, definitely. It does seem like Chill might have been the reason for that, if he's got a penalty with both J. Cole and Miami behind him. So that is a shame for J. Cole, once again compromised in this race. Obviously, as well, when we get going, which will be this lap, remember, full wet conditions means there's no DRS, so it's all going to be about who has the better grip in these wet conditions and who can get the moves done as soon as they possibly can. You can't really use the DRS. You can't use the DRS at all to overtake, so it's all going to be on pure skill here. Safety car coming in at the end of this lap then, so Pease now controls the lead at the front of the field. When does he decide to go? He is weaving all over the road, trying to get some temperature in those front tyres so that when he gets to the bus stop chicane, he can stop the car without going off the road. We've seen that a lot in real life Formula 1, where in the cooler conditions people do miss the bus stop chicane because their tyres and brakes are too cold. Pease then coming through Blanchimont. He hasn't gone as of yet. He's just waiting for the last possible moment to go so that he doesn't get caught by the drivers behind. He's going to wait right until the bus stop. It looks like he's gone now, just before the braking zone for the bus stop corner. So he goes into the bus stop. Can he get that car stopped? It looks like he can. Peter, though, is the one that's run deep into the chicane, so that's going to cost him massively. Pease is going to be gifted a big lead now coming across the line. Peter massively sideways coming out of the bus stop chicane. Pease is up and gone. B. Morgan's wide in the background as well. Yorno's up the inside coming up towards the source. Caesar having a look to the inside of the Williams man into La Source Eppin, but not quite close enough. B. Morgan with that poor exit out of the bus stop. Yorno's up into 5th place, so again up many places at the start of this race, from 9th on the grid up to 5th now for our championship leader. B. Morgan drops to 6th. Edok, Harry, Bree and YY round off the top 10 at the moment. B. Morgan seemingly really struggling for grip in these conditions. Up through Oage and Radion, then down towards the Kemmel Straight. Peter looks like he's got that sorted this time round, but already Pease is nearly 2 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Peter runs in 2nd. Caesar looking behind him more than in front at the moment. He's in a Williams sandwich. Yeah, looking
White Fry's up the inside of Bree. He's going to have to go onto the very, very wet. Bree's going to be on the dry line, but Bree's going to have to give up that position to the Ferrari of YY. So YY is now up 3 places from where he started. He's now going to be into 9th place. He's going to have to try and close down the Alfa Romeo of Harry Noir in this train in front of him.
Yeah, doing a brilliant job there is YHYY up into the top 10, up into 9th place. Bree, like his Renault teammate, struggling then. Old School out of the race. Bree now down to 10th from his grid slot, and he's now under pressure from Luke. Luke did not set a time in qualifying. He started this race in 19th. I don't even think he left the pit lane in qualifying. He's now running in 11th place, directly behind the Renault man, nearly into the back of him through pool one there. He was so fast, but not quite able to do it. Chill and Miami have come into the pit lane once again at that safety car restart, so they're well down at the back of the field now, just coming down towards Beau Rivage. They're well off the back of the Cuban cars. That's where J. Cole's gained a place, meanwhile, on Savage's AI car, who is now losing out as obviously
White Rise has actually made a mistake.
Yeah, he has. He's coming down towards Stavalo. He's made a mistake and he's let XL Bree and Luke through.
Yeah, but now he's going to have to look out behind JSD. White is going to have to try and get his rhythm back in these very, very difficult conditions. Going up towards Blanchemont in P11. JSD just about 3/10 behind in the Mercedes. Yeah, as I said earlier, he's going to have to really look up behind as Luke is the first person, I believe, to pick up a 3-second time penalty in 10th place.
Yeah, first person to do that, and J-Cod directly behind JSD as well, trying to look for a move, trying to get back inside the point scoring positions. Remember, top 12 score points. Coming to the start of lap 6, look at the lead that Pease has got. He's 3.5 seconds clear already. He is loving these wet conditions, and he's loving the fact that Peter's struggling, because Peter is holding a whole queue of cars up all the way down to B. Morgan. They're all within that 1 second window. Can Caesar get the run through Radion on Peter, who was again a little bit wide at the top of the hill, but Caesar himself struggling for grip as well, so he doesn't quite get the run on the Williams man. TDB there trying to get a run on them as well. Yorno directly in behind, probably just waiting for a window to open so that he can make the move. Caesar looks to the inside of Peter coming towards the Lecombe chicane, but again he is not close enough to make the move stick, so Peter holds on to second place for the time being. He's doing a very good job at defending his Peter, and it's helping his Williams teammate out, currently running in 4th, but is allowing Pease to just disappear off into the distance.
Yeah, total P's, as I said, for Peter, actually, before the race started, Peter getting on the exit curve there, out of turn 10. That's pretty dangerous from the man in the Williams. Obviously struggling for grip, as he said, but Total Peas was able to get past Peter on the start on the Kemmel Straight, and then he's just been able to, ooh, yeah, that's dangerous. But yeah, Total Peas is able to keep it on the road and then just pull away because Peter is struggling for grip. He's struggling for pace here in the Belgium Grand Prix.
Yeah, all over the road, coming out of Poo on there, sliding on the exit, almost did a Giovinazzi like we were mentioning earlier. He just about held on to it. But look at the gap now. Pease has gained 1.5 seconds in the middle sector alone. He is so much more confident in these wet conditions. And Caesar just can't find a window to overtake at the moment, and it is allowing TDB, Yorno and B. Morgan to just swarm all over the back of him. Then there's a little bit of a gap back to Eduk, currently running in 7th. Harry Nawag still running in 8th after starting at the back of the field. Hats off to Harry Nawag. He's doing a great job in these wet conditions. Obviously, the setup he was running in qualifying was massively compromised for these conditions because he's much faster in race trim at the moment. Now coming to the start of lap 7, Pease crosses the line 5.5 seconds clear of the chasing pack at the moment. Made that 5.6 as they cross the line, and Pease has not used pretty much any ERS at all. He's nearly running with 100%. Everyone else seems to be running with 100% apart from B. Morgan and Peter. Peter using a little bit in his defense. Now coming down towards Eau Rouge for the 7th time in this race. Can Caesar get the run through this corner this time round, or will he struggle once again in the dirty air with the Williams coming up the hill? Peter keeps it on the road.
Oh,
Caesar,
TDB is on the curb.
Yeah, TDB on the curb in the background. TDB a little bit wide at the top of the hill, so TDB looked for a run. Couldn't quite do it himself either, so now Caesar on his overtake, trying to... YYY in the background, looking for a move on Luke. He's going to go round the outside, down towards the Kemmel Straight. He's got the move flag. That's Mumford Plays. Mumford Plays the spun at the top of the hill. Peter picks up a 3-second time penalty once again. That's his first time penalty off the race. YYY making up for that mistake is back past Luke and back into the top 10. Bree is his next target, only half a second up the road. And once again, Caesar could not get the move done, and it just allows Pease to get away even more. Peter wide again through Beau Rivage. He cannot keep that car on the road. He's really struggling for grip. But Caesar equally is struggling for grip and just can't find a way through.
Yeah, we also have to look down to 13th. J. Cole is just stuck behind Bree, YYY, Luke, JSD, and Savage. Actually, never mind. Savage is pretty far off the back in his AI car. But yeah, Caesar just not being able to get the move done. He's all over that inside curb for turn 13 and through turn 14. But yeah, the spray is really hindering the AlphaTauri.
It really is, yeah. Look at the cube of cars now forming behind Peter. Also, it's Caesar, TDB, Yorno, B Morgan. Educk is closing in, so is Harry Noir, and then there's the queue behind Brie at the moment of White Y, Luke, JSD, and J. Cole. They're all very close on the track, apart from Pease, who has disappeared into the distance. Now 7.3 seconds clear at the front of the field. He's flying away. Caesar's a little bit closer through Blanchimon, but he just had picked up a load of understeer midway through the corner, so he's not going to be close enough towards the bus stop to make the move. Look at TDB in the background, really late on the brakes, nearly runs into the back of the Alpha Tauri, but gets the car stopped nicely. And once again, Caesar a little bit sideways coming out of the bus stop chicane. Is TDB going to be the one to make a move? Who's going to be the first person to make a move in this queue of cars? TDB dives to the inside for La Source. That's a late move. He nearly runs into his teammate. Can he get the run out of the corner? Caesar wobbles on the traction. What a move from TDB. Read that to perfection. Dived to the inside of La Source and made the move stick.
Yeah, he's going to now use his ERS advantage on his teammate Peter. I wonder if Peter is going to play games or team games with TDB. TDB, I believe, 5th in the championship. Peter nowhere near that currently, but Peter's not going to let him through. But Caesar is actually going to have to look behind his Yorno's around his outside. Going into late comm, Caesar's going to outbreak Yorno. Yorno just backing off there, allowing Caesar to keep 4th place as of now. But this is battling is actually allowing Educk, Harry Noir, and the train of Brie to all close up as Luke and J. Cole. Actually, J. Cole's off into the wall. He has front wing damage. Luke had to cut late comm. So not entirely sure what happened there. But yeah, there's been an incident with 2nd place in the championship.
Wow, it just looks like JSC and J. Cole were both going to pass Luke. I wonder if there's just a little bit of contact between the pair of them. J. Cole seems to have got away with no damage, but again, another setback for the Racing Point man. Now 7.5 seconds behind Luke with a spin as well. His tires are going to be hot, so he's going to try and cool those down in these wet conditions and close back in on that Cuba cast. JSD now up into 11th place. Luke, having shown decent pace earlier on, is now starting to struggle. I wonder if he's reaching that point where those wet tires are losing their grip and you have to come in for another set of wet compound tires. Looking further up the field as well, White YY is already all over the back of Brie. Brie's starting to close in on Harry Noir as well. Wonder if Harry Noir is starting to reach that cliff with his tyres as well. He's dropped well off the back of Educk, who has now caught the queue of cars in front. So he's now right within that 1 second window with B Morgan in front. So he's looking to capitalise on these guys. While that battling was going on as well, with TDB making his way up into 3rd place. Pease is now 9 seconds clear out in front. He is up and gone at the front. Can anyone catch him at this point?
No, I do not think so. I really think that Peter should let TDB through here. TDB obviously has the better pace advantage. Peter's starting to find a little bit of a rhythm though, not making as many mistakes with less pressure in from behind. He knows his teammate is not going to try anything stupid on him going into any of the corners.
White YY meanwhile works his way past Bria down into La Source. He's back up into 9th place, so after that mistake he's working his way through nicely back into 9th, and now Harry Noir is his next target for 8th place. Let's see if he can get that move done. Now at the top of Radion, who's got the run this time round? TDB has got a bit of a run on his teammate. Is he close enough? Peter is going to defend the move against his teammate. TDB goes to the inside line. Can he break late enough? He's sending it. They're very close to contact. TDB a little bit sideways, but Peter does not want to yield through his teammate. TDB nearly runs into the back of him through Malmedy.
Him through the corner.
Oh, and he's sideways. He loses the rear of the car because of it. He just holds onto it, keeps it out of the wall, but TDB going for an audacious move through Lake Common. Malmedy trolls him, drops him all the way down from 3rd down to 6th.
Yeah, I know TDB was really looking for that audacious move that Caesar was not able to pull off on Peter, but it's really going to cost him now because he has dropped almost 4 positions, I think, to Caesar, Yorno, B Morgan in the Haas. But yeah, Caesar is now going to have another chance at Peter over the next few laps.
Yeah, Peter did not want to yield for his teammate at all. Those team games probably should have been played because that would have put TDB in a position to take 3rd in the championship in this one, because he would have been outscoring both Caesar and Old School. So that's cost him at the moment that P3 in the standings. To see if he can get back up into that podium places, though we know he's got good pace in these conditions. B Morgan has a big wobble coming out of Stavolo, just about holds onto the car, but he once again struggling for grip in that Haas. Pease now leads the race by 10.5 seconds. He is up and gone out front. I don't think we'll be seeing much of him for the rest of the race unless anything happens, but it is almost like a real life Mercedes drive from him. He is just up and gone at the front of the field. He's disappeared, and then it's a whole queue of cars. But like you say, Peter seems to have found his rhythm now. He's not making as many mistakes. He's still losing time to Peace, but he's not all over the road like he was before.
Yeah, Peter finding his rhythm there on lap 9, but then his teammate just sending it up the inside of him of Lake Com. I think it was a little bit desperate from TDB in the second one. It was actually Peter, as I say that, getting into a rhythm, makes a mistake on tracks and out of the source. Now Cedar's really going to have a good run. He's going to back off just a little bit so he can see through Eau Rouge and Radion. Going down the 7th gear, Caesar having a little bit of a slide, but now he's going to have to use his overtake on the Lacom straight. I don't think he's going to be close enough. Peter not using his overtake, actually. Actually, Caesar is going to use all of his overtake. He's going to go the outside. Peter closing him off just a little bit. Caesar going for it. He really needs to get this move done. He's going to do it around the outside. Peter's still fighting it. But yeah, a little bit of contact, and there's a safety car. So Caesar's not going to be able to get that move done.
Caesar not able to get that move done. Great aggressive defending there for Peter, but I think that's fully fair. Caesar went for the move. There wasn't quite enough room. He couldn't pull it off. But this is a disaster for Pease. Pease with that massive race lead, completely wiped out with the second safety car of the race. That's for Luke. Luke spun at the top of Radion and has put the car in the barrier, so that's our second person to crash at the top of the hill. Gutting for Pease, though, to build up such a massive lead in these conditions. Now for it all to be wiped out.
Yeah, I know there's a delta here as Harry Noirg is actually going to pick up a drive-through penalty. That's really going to halt his pace. He's actually in 8th place. He's going to have to serve that once the safety car comes in. So all those places that he's gained, he did start, I think, at 17th place, where Mumford Plays is now. But yeah, Harry Noirg is going to lose all of his progress that he's made.
That is such a shame for Harry Noirg, running inside the top 10, liking these wet conditions, and it's all going to fall apart from him with that safety car who will drop to the back of the field. Like you say, Mumford Place is nearly a lap down in this race, so we might not get going for the safety car restart just yet. There might be a bit of a wait. Let's wait and see, though, what people do in terms of tyres. Does anyone want to come into the pit lane and change onto a fresh set of wet tyres? Pease could probably change onto a fresh set of wet tyres and still come out in the lead of this race, and he is into the pit lane. He comes in then. It's a very narrow pit entry here, so make sure you don't hit the wall. Comes up to the line, doesn't speed, he's into the pit lane nicely. Does anyone decide to stay out? Peter's next. He's going to dive into the pit lane, as is Caesar. Yorno comes into the pit lane. B. Morgan comes in and nearly crashes with TDB on the entrance to the pit lane. That was so close between those two. Everyone is coming into the pit lane. YHYY is coming into the pit lane as well. Harry Noirg is in. Bree will be next in. Everyone coming in with this opportunity to put a fresh set of wet compound tyres on. Pease, though, out of the pit lane before everyone else is even in their pit box.
Yeah, J. Cole's just entering the just entering the pit lane now in 12th place, but total P's. I believe he had like almost a 13-second gap to Peter in behind. But now we're going to have to look out for the pit stop. Because actually, Caesar has jumped Peter in the pit lane. The AlphaTauri crew doing a really, really good job. I know the Williams is quite quick on pit stops. AlphaTauri is not really known for it. But they have done Caesar a decent job there.
Yeah, it does look like with Peter being at the end of the queue that has held him up a little bit, and that's allowed Caesar, Yorno and B. Morgan through, so Peter's lost 3 positions. We've got a couple people on the intermediate tyres. Now, this is going to be interesting to see. Harry Noirg is on the intermediates. Obviously, he has to serve a drive-through penalty, so that he's not really going to be the one to watch. The one to watch, though, here is TDB. He's lost out in the pit stops once again because he double-stacked with his teammates, so he's now behind Edo and Bree as well, so he's dropped a number of places. But on those intermediate tyres, he's one to look out for to see whether these conditions actually suit these tyres. But if you look at the track conditions, I don't quite think it's intermediate tyre conditions yet.
Yeah, I know Harry Noirg has that drive through the serve, so maybe taking a gamble. He's trying to he's going to try something and see if he can make up places. Obviously, I don't really think it's going to work unless the rain is going to bugger off towards the second half of this Belgium Grand Prix, but it really doesn't look like it.
It really doesn't, no, and it does look still like full wet conditions, so I am surprised that people have gone for the intermediate tyres. Miami has also gone for a set of intermediates, currently running down in 14th. This is another lifeline, though, for the likes of J. Cole, Miami and Chill, and Mumford Plays as well, who obviously fell to the back of the field with certain incidents or contact. So they're now able to get back to this queue of cars and regain a lot of the ground that they lost. Luke has now left the session after his contact in that race, but now that we've got a completely different dynamic to this race, and that Caesar has now worked his way up into second place, do you think Caesar could challenge Pease for the race victory?
Yeah, with Peter being down in 5th place, I think Caesar, Yorno, and B. Morgan are all going to have their shot at Total Pease as long as Total Pease doesn't, or Caesar doesn't allow Total Pease to pull away right away, because we know Total Pease has the ability and has already done it twice in this race.
Yeah, it really has. Caesar did look like he was a little bit all over the road himself as well, so let's see whether that was just because he was stuck behind Peter, or whether he himself also struggles in these conditions. Pease, seemingly so far, has had no troubles with these conditions. He has seemingly loved them, and he was hoping that maybe there wouldn't be a safety car to the end of this race because he had such a big lead by that time. Yorno, our championship leader, up into 3rd place, with Jacob down in 12th, only scoring a point. Massive advantage once again in Yorno's favour.
Yeah, most definitely. Yarno, the championship leader, is up in the 3rd place. I know Caesar who I think is fourth in the championship. He's going to have a good scoring day with Old School being disqualified from the race. And then, as I said, Yorna, who's in third place, the championship leader, he should be able to pull from Jekyll, who's down in 12th place, the very last point scoring position. And then TDB, who did look on for a very good result and even a podium until he had contact with his teammate. Fighting over second place. He's now down in the P9 on the intermediate tires. It'll be interesting to see what Harry Noir, TDB, and Miami 5 can do on those intermediate tires compared to everyone else in the field on those fresh wets.
That is going to be the thing to look out for in this last half of this race, is whether the intermediate tyres are good enough for the likes of TDB, Harry Noir and Miami to gain places at the end. Does the weather ease off, or does it stay like this, and does it stay pretty wet? It does still look like full wet conditions, so this is a bit of a gamble from TDB, especially running that high in the top 10 scoring. While he is down in 9th place, he would still be scoring relatively okay points at this point in the championship. So it's a bit of a gamble for him to try and get further up the field. His first target will be Eduk, will be Bree, sorry. Harry Noir will move out the way with a drive-through penalty that he has to serve once the safety car comes in. Probably at the end of this lap, by the looks of things, that will put him up into 8th place. Bree and Eduk will be his first targets, but his big problem is going to be Peter. Peter has shown that he struggled for actual raw speed, but his defensive skills so far today have been stellar, haven't they?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm just going to make a comment on total Ps, as we aren't going to get many, or we haven't had many, really, in the first half of this Belgian Grand Prix on total Ps. But total Ps is only 7 points behind, 5 points behind Harry Noir in front of him. And then Miami, he's only 7 points behind Miami, the D4, the man who was moved up from D4. Just 5 or 4 races ago in the Red Bull. He's only 7 points behind, so Total Peace is really going to have an amazing scoring day here in Belgium.
Let's see if he can hold on to it. He's either retired or finished third so far this season, has P. So let's see if he can get his first win. Can we get 3 new race winners in a row? That would be great to see. P's obviously picked up the first win of the season in the D4 Championship in Australia before he was moved up in the second round. He's been probably top 5 pace-wise at every race since then, but it's just never quite come together for the Mercedes man. But for the second time in this race, he's going to lead the field back to green after the safety car restart. Then the 2 Red Bulls swapping places behind the safety car, so that's one thing to look out for, whether anyone picks up a penalty because of that. It's Savage dropping towards the back of the field in the Red Bull. Here is Pease then. Where does he go? He went just before the braking zone for the bus stop last time round, but coming through Blanchimont, he's running a little bit slower than he did last time round. Does he go at the same spot? Does he go a bit later? Does he go a bit earlier? It looks like he might be going at maybe the same spot.
Ooh.
Again, Chill and Miami with time
contact.
penalties. Yeah, Chill and Miami again with time penalties for contact.
Look how far Miami's back.
He is dropped away back, and J. Cole's actually spun behind the safety car. So again, another spin for J. Cole, and he's down to 16th place after a spin at Blanchimont. We are going again, though, in this race.
Already has a second gap.
Already has a second gap. Yeah, like you say, great safety car restart. Caesar not able to react. He's now a second back from the Mercedes man, but can he close in? He's deep into La Source. Is Yorno going to be close enough to capitalise on that? He's got a great run coming out of the hairpin. Once again, Chill and Miami are into the pit lane for damage at a safety car restart for the 3rd time in this race. Those two have come together. Idak and Harry Nawaga running side by side down towards Oak Ridge. Harry Nawaga really struggling on those intermediate tyres. Yorno's got a good run on the back of Caesar now coming up towards the Kemmel Straight. Can he pull that one off? Eduk's worked his way up into 6th place. Those intermediate tyres don't seem to be working at the moment. Here comes Yorno down the straight, but he's not on his overtake and he can't get the move done. Peter down the inside. B. Morgan's laid on the brakes, gives him the space. B. Morgan holds on to 4th place for the time being. Harry Nawak, though, on those intermediate tyres, seemingly really struggling. He's dropped already behind Eduk, and now Bree is all over the back of him.
Yeah. Harry Noir still has to still yet to serve that drive-through. He now has a 2-second gap to Eduk. It's only been a sector and a few corners for the man in the Alfa Romeo. But yeah, it's actually Bree has gotten past Harry Noir. Bree in the Renault. He's gonna try and chase down Eduk for 6th place. But B Morgan doing a defensive job there on Peter. Peter holding up the top, or well, 2nd through 5th, oh my gosh, in the first half of this race earlier on. But yeah, Yorno having a little bit of a look at Caesar going into Lake Com, but not able to get that move done.
Watch YY absolutely flying. He passed TDB at the corner with no name, and he just passed Harry Nawaga on the exit of Buon. He's up into 8th place. J. Cole spun at the safety car restart and has somehow worked his way up into 10th, make that 9th as he drives clean around the outside of Harry Nawaga. Just goes to show that those intermediate tyres were not the move. TDB has dropped down to 12th place and nearly out of the points because of it. He's going to get overtaken by Savage's AI car. That's how much he's struggling on those intermediate tyres. Harry Nawaga now drops to 10th, and he's going to have to serve a drive-through penalty as well. So those intermediate tyres, the gamble has not paid off. They have dropped so many places at the safety car restart. J. Cole spun down to 16th and has already worked his way up into 9th in one lap, so he is on a mission to try and pick up some points in the latter stages of this race, but he does have a 5-second time penalty hanging over his head at the moment. TDB down to 11th, that gamble not paying off, and it's going to drop him so much time. We're now onto lap 14 of this race. P is still leading, that gap is now up to 2 seconds, and Caesar has gapped Yorno for third as well.
Yeah, Yorno, Peter is not holding up Caesar, Yorno, or B. Morgan anymore, as well as TDB, who's down in 11 now on those intermediate tires. He's not going to be much of a factor in the later stages of this race. But yeah, Caesar, Yorno, and B. Morgan are able to show their actual pace now, but Total P still has a massive pace advantage over the guys on the lower stages of the podium and in the top 5.
He does look to see if he can hold that on to the end of the race. Can he hold those wet weather tyres towards the end? Can he keep life in them? But at the moment, it's looking good for Pease. It's looking good for his first race win of the season. A little bit sideways coming out of the corner with no name, but he holds onto the car nicely. Caesar's got good pace, but he was stuck behind Peter, so his pace was kind of hidden really at the start of this race. But it does seem like even with Peter out of his way, he's not quite on the same pace as Pease at the moment. Yorno as well, for some reason, seems to be struggling because B. Morgan is now closing in on the championship leader for that final podium spot. B. Morgan, who struggled quite a bit in the early phases of this race, is now starting to get back into it.
Spun.
TDB, yeah, spun coming out of the corner with no name on those intermediate tyres. Peter with a second time penalty of the race. Those intermediate tyres for TDB, not the right call whatsoever. It has cost him any points that he would have picked up had he sticked on the wet weather tyres. It has not worked whatsoever, so he's down to 12th, and he's got front wing damage as well. Harry Nirag is only 5 seconds back, and then Chill and Montford Place are still there in contention as well, so they should catch up to the intermediate runners in front of them fairly quickly. YHYY on the back of Bree currently for 7th. They're a little bit detached from the rest of the field.
B. Morgan.
Yeah, B. Morgan, look, yeah, like you say, look at him. He's right on the back of Yorno now, coming out of the bus stop chicane and on to lap 15 of this race. Harry Nawag picks up a 3-second time penalty coming through Stavalo, unfortunately. B. Morgan, though, has come alive in the second half of this race. He had really struggled in the early phases. He's all over the back of a championship lead for 3rd place.
Yeah, B. Morgan was just about 3/10 behind NSX Yorno, going through the bus stop chicane, which are the last 2 corners of Spa-Francorchamps. But now B. Morgan just losing time at the very beginning of this first sector and having not the greatest of runs through Eau Rouge and Radion. But I'm gonna have to make a comment on Miami. Miami pit from at the beginning of this, or when the safety car restarted from contact with Chill, and then went on to the intermediate tires. The questionable call from the man in the Red Bull, his Red Bull teammate, down in 11th, not making any strides towards closing up to JSD or pulling away from Harry, as he has left the session, I think, from the beginning of the race.
He has, yeah. It's just not been Red Bull's day today. They had a great race last time out with their first podium in Miami. It's not worked out today. TDB into the pit lane to change that front wing, and he's put the full wet weather tyres back on. So look for him to try and work his way back up the field and maybe into the points, but that is going to be a big ask for him to pull that one off. What a shame for TDB, who could have moved up into 3rd in the championship. At the moment, 3rd in the championship is going to be Caesar by the end of this race. He's doing just enough to take it. And actually, TDB is spun at the top of Radion. He's another one to fall foul of that corner, and it is a virtual safety car this time round. Yes, another full safety car. So Pease will be feeling. I think that is a weight off of Pease' shoulders. He must have seen that in the bottom of his screen that TDB had retired from the session, and Pease must have thought, oh, not again, I don't want another safety car restart. But this time round, it's only a virtual, so he's able to hold that lead he had. And the lead was nearly up to 4 seconds at that point. So Pease, despite the new challenge behind, he's seemingly under no pressure.
Yeah, as we do get going underway pretty quickly, those Belgian marshals working very, very quickly to remove the Williams from the top of Radion in the barrier. But yeah, Total Pease, even if there was a safety car restart, he's been able to completely dominate them, pulling away seconds even before the first corner. But Caesar having a very, very good VSC restart, closing in almost 2.5, or like a second and a half on the race leader.
Yeah, Pease, I think, caught out there because he was in the braking zone of the bus stop, and Caesar was still coming down the straight, so he didn't have to brake, and that's how Caesar closed in a little bit. That is one thing with the virtual safety car. You can catch you out where the safety car restarts, so Pease was obviously not up to speed by that point. Eduk picks up his first time penalty of the race, currently running in 6th place. Good stuff from the Ferrari man, who struggled in qualifying, but his wet weather pace similarly a lot better. He's trying to close in on Peter for that 5th place. He's within penalty range of the Williams man, so he will take 5th at the moment, but Bree is just outside penalty range range of Eduk himself, so Breed could take the 5th place off the pair of them at this point. YHYY once again in that Ferrari looking to make places after a little bit of a skirmish at the safety car restart. J. Cole directly behind him, currently in 9th place as well, trying to make up for what has been a fairly chaotic race for the man that is second in the championship. JSD rounds off the top 10 at the moment, then it's Savage's AI car running in 11th place. Chill rounds off the point scorers. Somehow Chill is in the point scoring positions after what has been a tumultuous race for both racing point cars. He's still in the points. Harry Noel trying to steal that point back off him, but he just doesn't have the grip to pull that one off, so he will continue to drop as the race goes on. Back to the race leaders though, Total P's holding the gap steady at 1.7 seconds on this lap. I'm wondering whether Caesar's starting to up the pace a little bit now.
Yeah, Total Peace was able to pull away right away because Caesar and Yorno were fighting on that safety car restart until they calm, and then throughout the rest of that lap. But B. Morgan is looked to be quicker than these second and third place right now. That gap is really stabilizing, and then B. Morgan is just able to close up towards the very end of this third sector, but then his Yorno and Caesar both pull away from him towards the first sector.
Caesar is D-rating coming through the bus stop, so that suggests obviously that he's used a lot of ERS on this lap, which is crazy to think in the wet conditions that Caesar's used too much ERS for the lap and is D-rating. That shows that he is trying to push onto the back of Pease, but Pease at the moment holding it steady, not using as much ERS, and Caesar has a bit of a poor run coming out the source to boot as well, so he's going to lose a bit, even more time as he comes down the hill into Rouge and then up through Radion. And Caesar has struggled all the way through this corner throughout the session, just shows there, had a bit of a wobble, and he's already lost 4 tenths coming out of the corner.
Yeah, that seems to be Total P's strong point. Total P is fearless, really through the first half of this lap. Just able to gain so much time in the first sector of Eau Rouge, and Radion turned 3, 4, and 5. The left, right, and the left. But yeah, Total P just seems to be fearless and has the pace advantage over everyone.
Yeah, it just seems to be like that. It seems to be working so far for Pearce at the moment. Caesar holding steady in second. Yorno, though, I'm a little bit surprised here. Yorno's had great race pace all season. He's still on for a podium and will still extend his championship lead as it stands, but he's not shown the pace that we've seen a lot from him so far this season. Not as confident in the wet conditions. Can't close up to Caesar and has got B. Morgan on his tail in case he makes a mistake. So while it's a safe P3 and another podium for our championship leader, it's not quite the pace we're used to seeing from him.
Yeah, the champion Yorno should be happy with himself, even if he is going to pick up only third place here. I know he has he's faster normally in the dry conditions than everybody else in the field. Total Peace taking advantage very, very well of these wet conditions, but J. Cole down in 9th place, the second second place in the championship in the racing point. 5 tenths behind YYY, who's 8 tenths behind Bree. Bree just leading a little bit of a train here.
Yeah, it just seemed, obviously, without the DRS usage that you would have in the dry conditions, J. Cole just can't make the move stick on YHYY at the moment. Now the yellow flag, Month of Plays is now the next person to spin at the top of Radion, and he's hit the wall, and that is another virtual safety car. So that's our second virtual safety car in about 3 laps, and that's another one that's fallen foul at the top of the Radion. That is our 4th driver in this race that has crashed at the top of the hill. Just goes to show how difficult it is. Caesar's been on the edge of crashing through that corner pretty much all race long, so goes to show how difficult that corner is. A Mumford plays in his first race, another one to fall foul from it.
Yeah, as you said, Mumford plays in his first Grand Prix. Luke also in his first Grand Prix in League of Europe Division 3. He fell foul of Radion, as well as TDB, who is 5th in the championship and is having a really, really good run. That his momentum should stop after the Belgian Grand Prix, and obviously Stumpy, who's the first one to do it at turn 5. Stumpy crashing out at lap 2.
Yeah, it was a lap 2. Here comes J. Cole, though, meanwhile on the back of YHYY. Is he close enough coming down towards the Lake Common chicane? Looks to the inside line, but again, he's not quite able to get there. Does look like this is kind of opposite, really, from J. Cole compared to what we usually see. J. Cole usually runs a higher top speed, but it looks like his straight line speed is actually slower than both cars in front of him.
Yeah, J. Cole obviously just wanting to play it safe with the wings in these full wet conditions. So J. Cole going to run, it seems to be higher wings, or if not equal wings, with YHYY. Normally he'd run lower wings, as you said. He'd go for much more of a straight line speed setup, as it is so important on F1 2020, especially with overtake and DRS. The straight line speed is absolutely crucial if you want to make any overtakes and move yourself up the field.
It really is crucial, and it's holding J. Cole back at the moment. He's stuck in 9th place. He's not under pressure from behind. JSD doesn't quite have the pace of his teammate in these wet conditions. He's holding on to 10th place for the time being, working his way, having not qualified. He qualified in 18th place without a time. So he's up into 10th place. He's gained 8 places, but just doesn't quite have the pace to get onto the back of the 3 cars in front of him. A little bit of gaps forming now. Just goes to show Peter was really holding the guys up in front in the early phases. He's now 6 seconds behind B Morgan. That queue of cars is up and gone in front of him. He can't close in, but he's holding Eduk at bay at the moment. Eduk not close enough to challenge yet. It does look like Eduk and Peter very similar pace at this point in the race.
Yeah, I do have to say that Eduk has actually had a really solid evening, because he is in he's in 6th place right now and making up 8 positions from where he started. I believe he started down in 14th. So the Ferrari man having a really solid race.
Yeah, really doing a solid race, like you say. He's doing a good job. He hasn't quite got the pace of the top 4 in this one, but doing a good job to pick up points for Ferrari, as is YHYY as well. Both of them struggled in qualifying, making up for it in the wet conditions. YHYY actually looking for a move on Brie, trying to maybe get a move down towards the Lecom chicane. He's nearly pushing Brie up through Radion, and surely this is him close enough to the back of the Renault man to get a move done. He's on that overtake. He touches the grass on that kink down the Kemmel straight. It's gone to the all the way to the inside in the slipstream of Brie. He'll move to the outside for the Lecom chicane. Who breaks later? Brie holds the inside line. There's been a wheel-to-wheel contact between them. YHYY round the outside. Brie's going to have the momentum into Malmedy. Can he hold on to it? YHYY a little bit wide of the line. He's going to run wide, and that's going to allow J. Cole.
J. Cole's side by side with YHYY.
Down the inside. Yeah, Beau Rivage down the inside of Beau Rivage. YHYY tried the move on Brie. Ran out wide through Malmedy. And J. Cole down the inside of Beau Rivage. Good move from J. Cole. Read that well. Waited for the opportunity to come. And when it did come, he made it stick instantly.
Yeah, J. Cole is 2nd place in the championship. Obviously, a very experienced racer here in League of Europe. Using that experience to his advantage over YHYY. I know both Excel drivers here in 7th and 8th are very experienced racers. Brie finishing 3rd in the Division 3 championship last season. Not having a strong of a season this season, or on this game really. But he's seeming to pick it up really.
Yeah, it really is. He's doing a good defensive job at the moment, currently running in 7th place. He is now out of penalty range of Eduk at the moment, so he won't gain on Eduk's penalty. He might gain on Peter's, but the gap is still increasing between the two of them, so we'll have to wait and see by the end of this race. We have got 3 laps to go when Pease crosses the line. We're on to lap 20. Pease continues to lead the race, 2.5 seconds clear of Caesar. He's edging that gap out ever so slightly. It's not chunks of time like we were saying earlier on, but he's still got a handle on things. You'll know just a second behind Caesar, and B Morgan just a second behind that. But as well, Harry Noir picks up his 2nd time penalty of the race, currently running in 13th place. He is now 17 and he's now 18 seconds behind Chill on those intermediates. Those intermediate tyres, just a dreadful decision in this race, weren't they?
Yeah, I know Harry Noir, after he served his drive-through, I believe he was just up the back of the racing point in 12th place. Chill, the last point scorer as of now, especially with Harry Noir, who is almost 18 seconds back, and he has 2 penalties. Also Miami, who got his first podium last time out in Hungary. I believe it was a 2nd place for the man in the Red Bull. He is not going to be scoring any points. He's going to be the last of the finishers here in Belgium, considering he doesn't retire.
Yeah, last of the finishes in 14th. He's going to be hoping for a couple of retirements in front of him so that he can get back into the points, but it's been a disaster today for Miami. He's been in contact with Chill. I think it's been hitting him, and Chill have come into contact more often than not in this race. They've hit each other at least 3 times, and they've both pitted at the safety car restarts, both full safety car restarts. They've both come into the pit lane to repair their front wings, so those two have been a bit inseparable in this race. Bit of a disaster for those two. Chill looking to pass Savage's AI car, but Chill off the road at the top of Radion there. Even down in 12th, all on his own, struggling to keep that car on the road, just doesn't have the pace today. We're looking back up to the front of the field again then. Pease continues to lead ahead of Caesar. The speed between these two is very similar. They're running similar lap times, but Caesar just doesn't have that pace advantage to close in on the Mercedes man, who's looking comfortable out front. Yorno's still running in 3rd ahead of B Morgan, who's really picked up the pace in the second half of this race, currently running in 4th, but tantalisingly close to that podium. He'll be hoping that at least one of the 2 drivers in front of him picks up a penalty so that he can get onto that podium, which I don't think B Morgan's done really at all this season. I think he's been on the podium once this season, but it's just not quite come together so far for him for a full campaign for B Morgan, who would have been hoping for better results as the season went on. As I say that, Caesar had a massive snap coming out of bus stop, just caught that in the corner of my eye. He was all over the road coming out of the corner, really struggling with those rear tyres with 2 laps to go. We've also got a big battle now between Peter and Eduk. They're now close to each other on the road, only half a second between them now.
Yeah, I do say the rain is really starting to let up as people are starting to set personal bests in sectors. I do believe I saw B Morgan set a purple final sector. So yeah, the rain is really starting to let up, and these wet tires are starting to improve in terms of pace. But Peter, I think, has made a mistake, and Eduk has closed up to within a second of him, and then Brie, J. Cole, and YHYY are all very close. I believe out of No Name, which is turned 11, JSD was just about a second behind YYY, but not making a mistake, not having a good enough pace to stick with 7th, 8th, and 9th.
There goes YYY down the inside of J. Cole, trying to reclaim that 8th place down the inside, but he's not close enough on the brakes. J. Cole holds on to 8th place for the time being, but again, J. Cole struggling in a straight line, cannot get a move done on Bree. Bree has done a great defensive job all race long. He's been in 7th place pretty much the entire race, and he's not really conceded a place in this one. He's just held that place and held it defensively very, very well. So he's doing a good job in that Renault, and he's only got a lap and a half to go to try and hold on to that 7th place finish ahead of J. Cole, YYY and JSD as well, who's just at the back of that queue of cars, like you said earlier on. We're coming around nearly to start the final lap of the race, and Caesar seems to all of a sudden start to be struggling because he's now nearly a second slower on this lap than Pease, and Yorno's back within a second of him.
Yeah,
he made a mistake there.
Yeah, he's really running wide. He's really, I think his tires are really starting to fall off, pushing obviously very, very hard to stay with Total Pease. I mean, and there was really no reason for him to push because Total Peace has such a pace advantage. But yeah, now Caesar is falling into the clutches of Yorno. Yorno closing it at almost 4 tenths on this lap going through the bus stop chicane. B Morgan not able to get an advantage on Yorno. Oh, Caesar here, 1.4 seconds behind 3rd place.
We're on to the final lap then of the Belgian Grand Prix. It's been a brilliant race in these full wet conditions. What a spectacle it has been to watch. Caesar looked to have the pace to hold on to second, but it's all kind of falling apart for him at the end. But as I say that, Yorno himself has a bit of a wobble coming out of the source, so he's not going to be close enough through Rouge and Radion unless Caesar's all over the road once again. They're both all over the curb. Caesar really backs off there through Radion. That's going to give Yorno a major run, but he's got no ERS. Yorno's run out of ERS in his attack here, so he's not going to be able to be close enough to Caesar, but Caesar's also out of ERS as well, as Peter picks up his 3rd time penalty of the race, so that will drop him behind Bree as it stands, as well as J. Cole and YHYY and maybe JSD as well. So let's see if he can try and extend that gap a bit further. Caesar holds on to 2nd place, but Yorno trying to gain as many points as he can on J. Cole. J. Cole in the background as well, trying to get a move done on Bree down into the Lake Holm chicane.
He's sending it.
Really late on the brakes.
He's around the outside of Bree. Bree's gonna have to back off. He's gonna have to let the champion or 2nd place in the championship in the Racing Point up into 7th place. Now J. Cole should have that 7th place locked down. It is very, very hard to overtake without DRS. There are no more DRS straights going towards the end of the lap, as it is the final lap with Total Peace coming through turns 13 and 14, your race leaders. Yorno 6 tenths behind Caesar. I don't think he has an opportunity unless Caesar, who showed mistakes towards the very end of the last sector, unless Caesar makes any of the mistakes again. I think he's really going to be focusing on trying not to make those mistakes and give up his 2nd place.
Yeah, great move though from J. Cole to be that late on the brakes around the outside of Lake Com and pull that move off, trying to gain back as many points as he can in what has been a disastrous race for the Racing Point driver. He will get up to 6th place as well with Peter's penalties in front, so that will gain him at least a few points back, but will ride with Peace as he comes into the bus stop. I think it's fair to say that this has probably been one of the, if not the most dominant drive of the season in D3. Pease, it took him a while, but he got there in the end. Pease finally is going to pick up his first victory in Division 3. He crosses the line with a dominant victory in the full wet conditions at Belgium. Caesar just holds on to 2nd place by 3 tenths of a second over Yorno, who picks up yet another podium for his championship campaign. He's going to try, he's going to extend his championship lead quite extensively in this one. B Morgan crosses the line in 4th. Eduk will jump up to 5th place. Peter drops to 6th, make that 7th maybe. No, J. Cole, I forgot. J. Cole had a 5-second penalty, so all those points that he gained by passing Bree, he's going to lose with that 5-second time penalty. So Eduk ends up 5th ahead of YHYY, who ends up in 6th place in the other Ferrari. JSD jumps to 7th ahead of Peter in 8th. Bree himself had a 5-second penalty as well. He drops to 9th, and J. Cole with only 3 points, I believe, in 10th place.
Yeah, this is a really, really solid drive from Eduk and YHYY there in 4th and 5th. I'm just going to pull up the position changes. Yeah, Eduk making up 9 places there off his start, finishing in 5th place. YYY making up 6 places. And JSD with a very, very underrated drive, I'd say, in the Mercedes P11, being completely outshone, though, by Total Peace, who's in 1st place. As Savage jumps to the top of the leaderboard for me, making up 15 places.
Yeah.
We all know that is not correct, but still, Total Peace with a completely dominant race win, finishing for almost 4.5 seconds in front of the closest challenger, who was Caesar, even with 2 safety cars and 2 VSCs.
Yeah, that really, really was a chaotic race. Just looking at the like you say, with Savage jumping up to the top of the leaderboard, that is a timing glitch on Codemasters Ends. It will say Savage has won the race, but obviously the results won't reflect that in the championship. Savage hasn't won the race. He wasn't part of the race for pretty much the entirety of it, so that will be changed in the actual championship standings once this race is complete. But that does mean then that Pease is going to pick up his first race victory of the season. What a drive from him. He absolutely dominated that one, did not look under any pressure really at any point in that race. He wins then from Caesar in second, Jorno will finish third, B Morgan fourth ahead of Eduk fifth, YHYY sixth, JSD seventh, Peter eighth, Bree ninth, J-Core 10th, Chill will be 11th, and I believe Savage finished the race in 12th as an AI car, but I don't think he'll pick up the points because he wasn't here for it. Miami, Harry and Awag, the only other two finishers, but a disastrous race for those two. Choosing the intermediate tyres just did not work for them in the end. They lost pace right at the end of that one. Montford Plays, TDB, Luke and Stumpy all crash at the top of Radion. Old School disqualified from the race for blocking the pit lane. So 5 drivers out of the race in the end. 2 big names in TDB and Old School, both fighting for third in the championship. And that result puts Caesar now back into third in the standings.
Yeah, Caesar coming back for the Belgian Grand Prix. Now he's really going to be able to look forward and maybe even challenge J. Cole and Jorna, who is at the top of the standings. J. Cole not having one of the greatest nights ever, down in 10th place it would be, with Savage being removed. And then, yeah, Caesar in P2 really being able to close down J. Cole, but not too much Jorna. Jorna finishing only 1 place behind Caesar.
Yeah, and that obviously, you'll know, coming into this race with a 7-point championship lead, that is going to extend quite extensively coming out of this one. I believe the points gap will be about 19 points now coming into the next round. So you'll know, with a much bigger championship lead than he has had in the past few rounds. But that is where we're going to end off the stream today, guys. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in, for driving today, for commenting on the stream as well. Thank you as well to Packer for joining me in the commentary box once again. It's been great to commentate alongside you, and yeah, I hope to commentate alongside you more in the future. I'm sure we will as the Division 3 season goes on. But from myself and Packer, it is thank you very, very, very much, and goodbye.
See ya.